A line drive shattered his big toe, and that broken toe quietly killed the greatest arm in baseball. Not his elbow, not his shoulder, a toe. He was 27 years old, the most dominant pitcher alive, the loudest mouth the game had ever heard. He had told the whole country he was unbeatable. And he was right, until the afternoon a baseball bounced off his foot and took everything he had. This is the story of Dizzy Dean, the last National League pitcher to win 30 games, and the cautionary tale baseball has never stopped repeating. He was born in the cotton fields of Arkansas, dirt poor, the son of a sharecropper who moved from farm to farm chasing work. He picked cotton before he could read. School barely happened. Shoes barely happened. What he had instead was an arm, a right arm that could throw a baseball straight through a wooden fence. Even his name is a mystery. Reporters would ask where he was from and when he was born, and Dizzy would give each of them a different answer, a different birthplace, a different date, sometimes a different name entirely, so every writer could walk away with an exclusive. To this day the record books can't fully agree on the details of his own life. He liked it that way. He talked the way he threw, hard, fast, and without apology. He gave himself the nickname. He handed reporters quotes they could barely believe. It ain't brag gin, he liked to say, if you can back it up. And Dizzy Dean could back up every word of it. By 1934 he was the ace of the St. Louis Cardinals, a gang of unshaven, mud-caked brawlers the writers called the Gas House Gang. They slid in spikes high, they fought, they played like the Great Depression. Waiting outside the ballpark was something a man could beat with his cleats. Dizzy was their engine and their heartbeat. Before that season, he made a promise that should have been impossible. His younger brother Paul had just joined the team. Me and Paul, Dizzy announced, would win 45 games between them. 45. The reporters laughed out loud. Then the two brothers went out and won 49. Dizzy alone won 30 games that year, 30-7. He started, he relieved, he pitched on no rest, he threw both ends of doubleheaders. On one September afternoon the Dean brothers pitched a doubleheader together. Paul threw a no-hitter in the second game, and Dizzy, who had merely thrown a 3-hit shutout in the opener, groused that if he'd known his kid brother was going to do that, he'd have thrown a no-hitter too. That October the Cardinals won the World Series over Detroit. In one game Dizzy was sent in as a pinch runner, and a throw to the infield caught him square in the head and dropped him cold. The next morning the papers reported that the X-rays of Dizzy Dean's head had revealed nothing at all. He laughed harder than anyone. Then he came back and won Game 7 himself, a complete game shutout, 11-0. He was the National League's most valuable player. He was in his mid-20s. He had promised the impossible, and delivered it. And in his own mind, there was not a single reason it would ever stop. The best pitcher alive believed his arm was forged out of iron. He was about to find out it all hung on one small bone in his foot. July 7, 1937. The All-Star Game in Washington. Dizzy Dean, still only 27, took the mound for the National League in front of the entire country. Earl Averill of the Cleveland Indians stepped in and ripped a savage line drive straight back up the middle. The ball caught Dean flush on the left foot, his landing foot, his plant foot, and broke the big toe. The story goes that when the doctor told him the toe was fractured, Dizzy fired back, "Fractured? Hell, the damn thing's broken. It got a laugh. What happened next got no laughs at all. He should have sat down. The toe needed weeks to knit. Instead, with the Cardinals in the middle of a pennant race and Dizzy being dizzy, he was back on the mound in a matter of days, cramming the broken toe into a special shoe and pitching before the bone had come close to healing. And to keep the weight off that screaming toe, he changed the one thing a pitcher must never change: his delivery. Every great pitching motion is a chain. Legs, hips, trunk, shoulder, elbow, wrist, all of it timed to fire in sequence so the arm never has to carry the whole load by itself. Now Dean landed differently, softer, favoring the foot, guarding the pain. The chain broke. All that beautiful violence that used to roll up through his entire body was suddenly snapping through his shoulder and his elbow alone. And somewhere in there, he felt something go dead in his arm. The fastball that once tore through outfield fences slowed to something ordinary. He tried to pitch through it, the way he had pitched through everything his whole life. But you cannot out-talk a dead arm. In 1938 the Cardinals sold him to the Chicago Cubs for a small fortune, a pile of cash and players, and the Cubs quickly discovered they had bought a ghost. Dean gutted out a handful of games on guile and memory, floating up slow jump where the fastball used to live. He even helped pitch Chicago to a pennant that fall, winning games he had no business winning. But the arm was gone, and everyone in the dugout could see it. By 1941 he was finished. He was around 31 years old. To protect one broken toe, he had traded away the greatest arm of his generation, and he never even felt the exact moment it left him. Here is what makes this story ache. Dizzy Dean did not fade away slowly, the way most stars do. He fell straight off a cliff. In the 4 seasons from 1934 through 1937, he was arguably the best pitcher on the planet, more than 100 wins, an MVP award, a World Series ring, and a strikeout record along the way. After the toe, he won a small handful more, and then nothing. His entire major league life lasted only about 12 seasons, and nearly all of the greatness fit inside just 4 of them. There was one last act, and it was pure Dizzy. Years after he retired, working as a broadcaster, Dean spent a whole summer on the air mocking how badly the last-place St. Louis Browns pitched, insisting that even now, with a dead arm and a broadcaster's belly, he could do better. So near the end of the 1947 season, the Browns called his bluff and let him start the final game. Dizzy Dean, pushing 40, threw 4 scoreless innings, slapped a base hit, then pulled a muscle running to first and limped off laughing. He went back up to the booth and never pitched again. And that booth is where he found his second life. Dean butchered the English language on live radio and television, and America adored him for it. Runners slid into third base. Batters stood confidently, or as Dizzy put it, confidentially, up at the plate. When teachers wrote in furious that he was ruining children's grammar, he shot back that a lot of folks who never said ain't weren't eaten regular either. He became, of all things, one of the most beloved voices the sport ever had. In 1953 they put him in the Hall of Fame, on the strength of 4 blazing seasons and a broken toe's worth of what if. But the deepest mark he left isn't hanging in Cooperstown. It's a single number on the record books that no one in his league has touched since.
Not at all.
Dizzy Dean won
Plenty of
30
good reasons
games
to
in
try and reach an
1934.
level. But if your motivation
In
is
the
bigger
90
goals,
years
if you
since,
believe
not
that
one
reaching a
National
native
League
level is
pitcher
the
has
key
done it
to
again.
finally feel like you're
In
accepted
all
by the
of
community,
baseball,
that you
only one
belong
man
there,
has done it at
I
all,
believe that
and that was
sometimes
back
it
in
can backfire
1968.
big time. That you're
The
potentially
30-win
setting yourself
season
up for a
effectively
world of
died
hurt,
with the way
because
Dizzy
in all
Dean pitched.
likelihood, it just won't deliver what you
Everything,
hope it
all the
will.
time,
I'm
on
not
any
entirely
rest,
sure
on a
what to make of
broken
the
foot,
comparison
until
between
the
my
body
story and
finally said
Matt's.
no.
After all, I'm not him,
And his
I
ruin
wasn't there,
slowly
so
became
I
a
can't say what
lesson
was
the
going on
entire
in his
sport
head.
absorbed.
And you know what? Maybe he's right.
Protect the
Maybe in
arm.
his situation, if he had only
Watch the
spoken the language
mechanics.
better, maybe if he had
Never
reached
let
that
a hurt
elusive
pitcher
native
quietly
level,
change
he
his
would have had a
delivery
brand
to
new
hide the
time.
pain.
Who knows?
Count
But my
the
own
innings.
story suggests otherwise.
Count the pitches.
I already spoke the
The
language at a
pitch
native
counts and
level,
the
but I
injury
still
lists and the
struggled.
careful
I
workload
suppose
rules
you
that
could
govern
argue that
every
the
modern
problem is
arm
that
are,
I just
in
didn't have
part,
enough
the
cultural
long
knowledge.
shadow of
The
men
remedy
like
was
Dizzy
for me
Dean,
to learn
arms
more stuff
that
about
burned
the culture.
impossibly bright and
At
then
some
went
point, I was
dark
just
all at
chasing
once,
ghosts.
over
I mean,
something
you'll
as
never see the
small
end
and
of
as
it. You
stupid
could
as a
study and
toe.
study and eventually
He backed up
surpass the
every
cultural
brag he
knowledge
ever
that your
made.
average monolingual has,
He just
and you'd
never got
still
to find
feel
out
like
how
an
much
imposter.
further it might have
Still
gone.
feel that they somehow
So
have a
here
more
is the
legitimate
question.
claim to the language and
If that
culture than you
one-line
do.
drive had missed by
But
a
it allowed me
single
to
inch,
reconcile
if Dizzy
that you
Dean
as
had
part of
simply
me
sat
isn't
down and let a
improving my
toe
language
heal,
skills or
how many
cultural
of
knowledge.
baseball's
What
untouchable
allowed me to
records
get
would
there
carry
was
his
just the kind
name
of
today?
introspective work we all have to
Follow
do
for
to figure
more.
out who we are and the